I'm getting ready to build a brand new model railroad, MRRTwo. But before that, I need to build the benchwork for it. And that's what we're doing today. Let's get started. Here is a complete list of all the supplies that you will need to do this build. Now, one thing that did save me a lot of headache is I bought this 1 foot by 6 foot board pre-made. It's going to make it a little bit heavier, but it's actually going to make it sturdier because I am going to have to move this around. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get to building this 1 foot by 6 foot benchwork for MRRTwo. First things first, let's build the legs, and we're going to be building L girder legs, which we're going to be using 1x3s and 1x2s to do that. Our legs are going to be 4 feet tall because we're going to have this layout at a tall viewing height. It also has to slide over my workbench because this is where this layout is going to go. So then we can get all of our boards measured out, and then we can get to cutting them. And here are our pieces to be ready to be made into L girder legs. Here are the supplies you're going to need. You're going to need some clamps, some wood glue, some 2-inch screws, and a drill with appropriate bits. Now, if you have a finish nailer, you can certainly use that. I typically would, but I also like to demonstrate ways with tools that people are more likely to have, and more people are likely to have a drill rather than a nail gun. So I'm going to be building this with screws and a drill. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put a bead of glue on the 1x3 where the 1x2 will be attached perpendicular to it. We then bring our 1x2 in, line it up nice and neat because this is very important. We got to have that nice L shape and it has to be even. And then we're going to put our clamps on there to hold it in place as it dries. Now, you're probably wondering, why did you need screws and a drill if you were going to do that? Well, we're going to use the screws to hold it in place while it was drying. I'm going to drill some pilot holes. When you are doing this work on this thin of wood, you're going to want to use pilot holes just because the wood has a tendency to splinter. So I drilled those 3 pilot holes, and then I put 3 2-inch screws in, 1 at each end and 1 in the middle, and then I let it dry. And then it is a matter of rinse and repeat for the rest of the legs. It's just a process of gluing them together and then screwing the legs together, and then you just keep on doing it and doing it and doing it until you have 4 different legs, and then you're going to let each one of them dry. Now it's time to work on the top of the benchwork. So I grabbed my 6-foot board, and then I actually was able to buy 2 other 1x5 6-foot boards so that I didn't have to do any cutting. If your local hardware home supply store has these, they are a nice little time saver. So I start by gluing them and then aligning them and clamping them in place just like I did with the L girders. And then it's really the same process. I drill the holes and then put the screws in. And then I flipped it over and did the exact same process on the other side. Now we're going to take the tabletop and flip it back over. I need to put the end caps and the middle cross brace on. If you're using a thinner material for your tabletop, you might want to consider putting 2 cross braces at 2 feet each in terms of their spacing. I'm going to put one right at the 3-foot mark, which is right at the middle, but I'm going to take this other piece of 1x5 right here and mark it, and I'm going to basically cut 3 pieces out of it right here. So I go ahead and mark this and take this over to my miter saw and cut the pieces out. Now it's time to glue the boards in place as well as screw them in place. So start off with the end caps, and we're going to go ahead and push this one in, and I do have a hammer just because I need to tap it in place because it's a really tight fit. And then it's just drill the pilot holes and screw it in, just more rinse and repeat. And I'm doing the same process for the other end cap as well as the middle support as well. Once that's done, it's finally time to attach the legs. Now, one thing you'll see me do here that may be a little weird is normally I do some sort of 45-degree bracing, but I do want these legs to be fairly easily removable because this layout is going to be somewhat portable. So I'm really not going to be doing too much bracing because of that, but I will be adding 3 screws per leg just to hold them in place. And then it was just the same process on the other side with the other 2 legs. Now for a little bit of the stability, I wanted to put a cross brace just to support everything about 18 inches from the bottom of the legs. I'm using a 1x4 for this, and all I'm doing is clamping it in place and putting some screws in just to hold it in right there. And this gives me a solid amount of stability and gets the framework fairly rigid. Once that was complete, I'm able to flip the Benchwork over and see how my handiwork turned out. And you can see this thing is pretty tall. It's 4 feet tall. It's got that viewing height. So, and I'm about 6'1", but here is the final Benchwork.
The Benchwork is rip-roaring, ready to go and ready to have some trains on it. Next installment of this series, we're going to be doing the track work, and I'm going to be going over the idea of the track plan and talking about some of the features of this layout. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, and happy railroading.